Prime Minister-designate Mustafa Adib has resigned. Speaking live on television, he said he recused himself from forming a new cabinet after failing to meet a September 15th deadline set by France. The announcement deals a blow to President Emmanuel Macron's efforts to break a dangerous stalemate in the crisis-hit country. Macron has been pressing Lebanese politicians to form a cabinet made up of independent specialists that could work on enacting urgent reforms to extract the country from a devastating economic and financial crisis. That, of course, worsened by the August the 4th explosion at Beirut's port. Well, let's cross to Beirut now and speak to France 24's Linda Tamim. Linda, what's the latest over there?
Well, as you can see, the Prime Minister-designate just resigned, but that was quite an expected move, really, given the hurdles that he's been facing in forming a government in the past, ever since the 1st of September, since French President Emmanuel Macron imposed a deadline to form a government that would finally be able to implement the needed reforms in order to unlock the billions of dollars needed to salvage Lebanon's economy. Yet, PM-designate Mustafa Adib has been facing quite a few challenges, namely with the issue of the rotation of key ministerial portfolios and with the Shiite parties, Hezbollah and Amal, refusing to let go of the finance ministry. Now, we had our hopes up recently since Tuesday when former Prime Minister Saad Hariri offered that Adib, or suggested, should I say, that Adib assigns the foreign ministry portfolio to an independent Shiite candidate. And, of course, this declaration was praised by France, who called it a courageous declaration and who insisted on key political parties in Lebanon to recognize its importance in paving the way for the formation of a new cabinet. And this also was welcomed by the Shiite parties themselves, with whom meeting with PM Adib in the last few days have been reported as positive. So yesterday, when PM Adib went to Baghdad Palace to meet with President Hoon, he was carrying a file, and it was believed that he was going to finally present his cabinet lineup to the president for approval until 40 minutes later. He came out stating that he will reconvene with the president this morning. Unfortunately, we're not exactly sure now what happened, but the PM-designate said he had no choice but to step down.
Do you think his resignation could now break the political impasse that's gripped the country?
Well, I think it's only going to make matters worse. Now, the PM-designate did say that France's initiative should be respected. Now, the question is, who is going to take over his role as PM-designate? Who is going to be agreed upon by all these different political groups here in order to take over his role? And it has to be obviously somebody who is going to be capable of forming that government in line with France's initiative to salvage Lebanon's economy. Someone, or should I say, someone who could finally form a government that will be able to implement the much-needed reforms that are necessary to salvage Lebanon's economy and unlock those billions of dollars in aid.
Just tell us a bit more about Mustafa Adib, the outgoing Prime Minister-designate. He was a Lebanese ambassador to Germany since 2013. Did he just quite simply not have what it took to run this country?
Well, one has to take into account that the political system in this country is quite complicated and complex. He needs to have the approval of the parliament, and all parliamentarians must cooperate with him in order for that cabinet formation process to be successful, as well as the president as well. So he had to, it was quite a hard job for him to put together everybody around one table and to agree on the names of those ministers who were supposed to run the cabinet with him. Now, with this, and with mainly the hurdles that he's been facing over the finance ministry portfolio and the Shiite groups being completely against the shake-up of the ministerial portfolios, it's been quite an impossible task for him.
And now Lebanon, of course, has just been lurching from crisis to crisis. How do you think the people will react to this news?
The people of Lebanon are, I won't say they're surprised at all, because anyway, a PM-designate that was chosen by the Sultan is, I'm talking here mainly from the revolutionaries' perspective. This is not what they want. They want a complete reform in the entire electoral system in the country. They want a government that is completely independent, that is made up of specialists, something that the PM-designate himself did propose at the beginning. But once we talk about the approval of parliamentarians, the very people that the revolutionaries have been wanting out ever since October 17, then for them, the government is bound to fail anyway. So there needs to be a complete reform in the entire electoral system, in the entire government, and probably in the entire constitution as well.
Okay, Linda, Tamim, we'll have to leave it there, but we'll bring you in again, of course, for more on that developing story on the Lebanese Prime Minister-designate stepping down from his role.